That with the big one. If Big John Bina was a Spanish DJ, he'd be Big One. Big Juan Bina with the big tickets for the tent go on sale Memorial Day for the season. Not exactly. Okay, where am I? We have big developments here, folks. Big news. How about the bishop is lowering the boom on Allie's? Matt is back. This is like Christmas time for Juan. How about that? My goodness, folks. Hello, there's David Picard. There he is. Folks, you can always do a thumbs up when you arrive. Please share that you're watching. It's the Noon Report. And also the latest on the mystery in Warwick. Does not sound like a good sign. But we'll try to keep a positive outlook on the situation here. All right, we're live on the radio. Un momento. Today I may do the whole program in Spanish, so get a translator ready if you need one. Otherwise, I can translate. Is it another controversy with Matt? I mean, this could just be too good to be true. Boy, have they changed things. All right, we're live on the air in a moment. That's right. We'll have to come up with the Spanish with the big one. Well, folks, good afternoon. Here I am. It is Juan. It's the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. I want to welcome in everyone tuning in on both Facebook and also on YouTube. Hello to the YouTube crowd, which is slowly catching on. It's like we're branching off into different countries in some ways. As we pick up the new platforms, it is the John DePietro Show. And of course, we have the people that just enjoy listening, which is nothing wrong with that. Enjoy listening, obviously, on the radio. It's AM 1380 or 99.9 FM. There is the Twitter crowd, as well as everybody files in to get their news of the day. That's why we call it the live report. Now, we do have a lot of news, actually, on this Tuesday, and it's kind of late breaking. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, Rhode Island's #1 garden center. It's open. Of course, it's open. They've been open since Easter, before Easter. Everything available, annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansies, marigold bags, large selection, beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandibulas, hibiscus plants, screen loom, mulch are available for pickup and delivery. Mulch, dark pine black, hemlock, crushed stone. Folks, full-scale nursery, everything you need to make your home a showstopper. Stop it and see them. Gift certificates are available. They're open 7 days a week. Look for them on Facebook. Shop local, shop often. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Well, for our purposes, we're just going to treat it that it's Matt, the one doing it. Let's not let the truth get in the way there, Debbie. I think Matt works for the father. Well, you know, who knows? But here's what people know. People know Matt. So we're riding with Matt. That's the one I'm going to ride with until I hear differently. And folks, again, so the big news, Bishop Tobin. This is like a gift. Bishop Tobin. And again, good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:08 on this Tuesday. It is May 24th. It's the John DePietro Show. It is Juan. I do have, on a very serious note, news on this missing woman. I think she lives in East Greenwich, but we're calling it Warwick, Staples Avenue. If you want the latest, and I have the latest on that. I mean, the latest on it. So it's not your imagination. The news is nonstop. And I do apologize, folks. I should have been out. Listen, I should have been out in Newport last night. All right, I understand. Listen, as much as you can't be everywhere, I should have been there. I was there this morning, should have been there last night. Won't happen again. But anyhow, but the latest now, I think this is really interesting that the Bishop of Providence, Bishop Tobin, is saying, we're hearing reports Allie's Donuts in North Kingstown is currently collecting funds for Planned Parenthood. If true, it's an unfortunate decision. Catholics and others concerned about protecting human life may want to buy their donuts elsewhere. I love Bishop Tobin for putting that out on Twitter. I love the fact that he's on Twitter, as a matter of fact. And I want to make sure I share his tweet where the church is weighing in. And hey, listen, he's entitled to his opinion. Why isn't he entitled to his opinion? Some of these people. Let's see. When is the protest? I can't wait. This is like a gift. Absolutely a gift. Another protest at Allie's. Anyone that has followed that famous Sunday, but hey, listen, on Sundays, maybe a lot of people do go there to church, and you go to church and then stop at Allie's for some donuts. Of course, then you have the all these, the progressives. Oh, thanks for encouraging me to buy them and blah, 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 and everything else. But when you folks, there's only one. I mean, if this means that it is once again going to be a summer of Matt, I mean, that is just obviously like a gift to the program for those that are not familiar with our friend.
Can shut down.
Oh, here we go.
I don't fear losing customers.
Nope.
I don't fear bad press.
Obviously.
I don't fear, any of the psychological stuff that could happen. I'm not worried. And if Allie's Donuts does go out of business because of, us shutting down, right? Then, I'll find something else to do, I'm sure.
Boy, that's encouraging. Now, I have heard, in all honesty, so I have heard that he is not doing it anymore. So,
hey, everybody.
Here we go, everybody. Matt here. Little walk down memory lane, as Kate would say.
We sold out donuts today at 12:30.
They were actually giving them away.
Obviously, we can't make as many donuts as we used to. And the parking lot's a little bit different. And we all have to stay, so far away from each other and everything, where...
Bring these back. Matt here. They were actually giving the donuts away. He said we sold out of donuts at 12:30. I was there. They were giving out free donuts.
Donuts today at 12:30.
No, exchange for a donation.
Obviously, we can't make as many donuts as we used to.
Especially if you're giving them away for free.
And the parking lot's a little bit different.
Yeah, a lot of degenerates.
And we all have to stay, so far away from each other.
You don't have to do that anymore. He is just something else. But listen, and then, folks, I had him, the only radio interview, be quiet, the only radio interview that he did that was...
on every single radio station, talk radio station, to keep sending me phone calls. Because I'll tell you, I met a lot of cool people.
Cool? Cruel. Cool?
Not cool. Cool people.
He's like Charlie Callis.
I met a ton.
We had Matt on for an hour on the radio show. It was 2 years ago.
Completely opposite take.
June of 2020. Yeah.
In my life.
Yep.
And I've seen the other side.
Matt.
And the more information you have,
special
better you are.
Donut powder, special sugar.
Do that.
For some reason, he can make donuts for 2 days straight.
Let's talk about things. People in power, people with influence. Let's discuss how to fix things.
People on drugs.
Acknowledge that they need to be fixed and not ignore it and not pass blame back and forth and say.
The ravings of a madman.
Every single radio.
Oh my goodness, folks. He is back, which means I'm gonna have to reprise my role as Matt. And then when they had the veterans had the protest there, as a matter of fact.
Ever since the message came out, obviously all of the people that I grew up with that either went into the Army or became a Marine.
He would no longer offer the discount for police or military.
No, because honestly, it's first off sticks and stones, right? Everybody in the military is stronger than I am.
It's an insult.
Through all of that stuff. I know that
He sided with BLM.
Bringing up things like that. One of my dad's best friends was in Vietnam, and
this was such a great protest. Sal, all the veterans out in front of Allie's.
You don't regret going out the military, but why not?
Everybody's thinking about it, right? You guys are out here. People will recognize you. And maybe they wouldn't have recognized you if it wasn't for me.
But we've always been recognized.
Always. That's not a point. People in the military now.
He's outside with the mask on.
Today that deal with sexism, that deal with racism.
Matt. See, prayer works, folks. The power of prayer.
They're forced to based on respect and being calm and making sure that they go up the flagpole, right? They're going through the
one of the all-timers.
And that's not just happening to people in the military. I argue that's cut notice. It's not just happening to people in the military. It's happening to everyone. But the thing is, blacks, whites. It's happening to poor and rich. It's happening to everybody.
Well, you know what?
Power and influence, not speaking up, not supporting.
He's outside with the mask on.
Veterans are getting recognition because of you right now. You don't really believe that, do you?
Well, you're here right now, aren't you? You wouldn't be in my parking lot if it wasn't for me.
Well, we've been a lot of...
Yeah, but they're protesting. They're protesting that. He never understood that. Well, you wouldn't be out here, would you? They were protesting. All right. So, folks, now, I'll also say this. People going after... Why isn't Bishop Tobin have an opinion? And for a lot of the trolls that are going after him on Twitter... they're not the type that I went there, that famous, just to back up. And again, folks, good afternoon for everybody that is tuning in. It is 12:16 on this Tuesday. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. You can listen online at the website, depetro.com. This portion of the program on this Tuesday, Ron's Pastry Gourmet is open right now. Right now, they are open. Now, the bad news is, boy, Ron's made a killing after the whole Allie's debacle, which I will walk down memory lane in just a moment. But Ron's Pastry Gourmet, right now, 170 Royal Little Drive in Providence. They're off of Silver Spring Street, next to AAA in Providence. And right now, you want to go, you're listening to the radio or watching on Facebook, delicious calzones, delicious sausage and pepper, wimpy skimby, spinach pies, Ron's Pastry Gourmet. Pop it and see them today, plus the Trump 2024 donuts and the Let's Go Brandon cupcakes. It's all at Ron's Pastry Gourmet. They're open Tuesday through Saturday from 7 in the morning till 2 o'clock. Everything baked fresh. It's Ron's Pastry Gourmet. So just to rewind the clock for some of the newer people that may be unfamiliar, why Juan is so excited at the prospect that Matt from Allie's is back in the news. It is true. I've heard our friend is right that I think Matt works there, but the family, the parents took it over. So, but you have to wonder, anything that's a potential PR debacle, you got to wonder if Matt is involved with that again. So we're ideally going to try to find out later. But just to back up, for those of you that may be newer people or don't fully remember, but it was, if you remember, it was you'd remember this, Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day night of 2020 was when George Floyd died in Minneapolis. That was that Memorial Day night. So then that week, that Friday night was the big protest at the Rhode Island State House. No, excuse me. Let's see. Now I'm getting my dates confused. Hold on. What's the timeline on this? That's not a good sign that I'm starting to, hold on. I know this. Let's see. That was Memorial Day was the 25th. Okay, then it was the following. Yeah, that was the June 5th. All right, I have it right. So George Floyd died on the Monday night. And then, there was different problems. That Saturday, May 30th, was the protest in Providence when in fact now I have it correct, when they smashed the windows at the back of the Rhode Island State House. And then the Monday night, June 1st, was the riot in Providence at the Providence Place Mall. It started 11:30, really into midnight into June 2nd. So here's the timeline. Friday night, June 5th, was the big protest in Providence at the Rhode Island State House. In Providence at the State House, 10,000 people possibly, June 5th. And then at that protest was when a former reporter who left the area did a very inflammatory interview with a Providence firefighter who was saying that they had guns drawn on him because he was a person of color. So it actually accelerated a riot. People could have been killed. It got very dangerous after that. They put the person on live, completely unverified. The worst part of that interview was the reporter rubbing the back of the firefighter who was embellishing, telling half-truths, saying, I had guns drawn on me simply because I was black. And that later we learned that, number one, they weren't supposed to leave the firehouse. Number two, he was out in his car with a friend, and even though it totally violated COVID protocols because the friend could have spread COVID to him, and then he could have spread COVID to all the firefighters. This is the fire station in Silver Lake. What he left out of the equation was there had just been a robbery. Someone had a gun at the top of the street, and they were in a red car, and there were two people, and suddenly in front of the fire station, there was the red car. He left that out. Almost a riot. But it was that Saturday night, as a matter of fact, that Allie's Donuts on their social media, Saturday, June 6th, 2020, Allie's announced they would no longer honor the discount for police, military, first responders. So Sunday morning, June 7th, was when I went to Allie's thinking, all right, so we'll talk to some of the people in line and blah, blah, blah. That was the first time we met Matt, and first time I had learned he was doing all these postings. And then instead of what I thought would be traditional Allie's people in line, it was the BLM crowd. People covered in tattoos, people covered, and also like heavy set people with like really white, pale legs. But the crowd was a BLM crowd in line, and it was very confrontational. If you've ever seen the video, I should actually reshare that, because I was, I would we'd stop at Allie's Donuts sometimes when we'd be going down to the beach in the summertime, whether it was Bonnet or Green Hill. Way back, if you lived in Rhode Island in the 70s, that was the way that then you had to get down to the beaches. That's why they did so well in business. It was the only place. So I thought it was more like the traditional Rhode Islander, instead of the people in line were like, it was like a BLM protest. So anyhow, and then Matt continued. He just basically destroyed the place after that, because injecting these views, and they had to change all their policies, Allie's Donuts, Rhode Island institution and everything else. So, but I think the parents did have to come back in and start working with it. But here we go again. Again, someone put, well, PBD Donuts. Yeah, PBD's Donuts are in Providence. Allie's Donuts is in North Kingstown. So, their business fell off dramatically after that. And just as they're letting things die down, boom, they flame it back up and say, we're going to give give donations, or they're giving. I'll have to get to the full story of it, but I mean, think of that. If they're giving, if Allie's Donuts, and I'll obviously after the program, if they're collecting funds for Planned Parenthood, that's it. We'll get the full thing. I mean, you would think they would have learned their lesson. He is just so full of it. I'll get to that whole thing. But anyhow, that is the situation with Allie's. But I want to get to there's several things. I'm seeing right now someone Kathy Gregg is flagging that Channel 10 story. That is such a joke that they're saying that John Marion is a government watchdog group, more like lookout for crime, watchdog group. He's part of them. The whole census thing just infuriates me. But I'm going to get to that in just a moment because I want to give you the latest on. I've learned a lot about the murder. Well, I don't want to say that. The missing woman in Warwick. This doesn't sound very promising for this poor woman. I'm going to tell you the timeline, get to the bottom of it. This portion of the program, though, folks, on this Tuesday, is brought to you by Jay's Appliance. Now, listen, right now, this is a great time to pop in and see them. Memorial Day is this weekend. Great time to buy appliances, grills, air conditioners, Jay's, Broadway Appliance and TV. They have a great selection. Weber grills on display, air conditioners for windows or built-in walls for senior apartments or condos. Also a great selection on washers, dryers, dishwashers, refrigerators. Hurry down. See my friends, J''S Appliance. Easy to get to. You can park right at the front door, 47 Cedar Swamp Road, which is Route 5 in Smithfield. You're going to deal directly with the owner. Look for them on Facebook. And then their website is jsappliance.com. I just find, especially in this day and age, it's interesting. Last night, as I was going back to this Staples Avenue in Warwick, where the missing woman was last seen, what's interesting to me, folks, is you see all these places, like there's a Subway, and it's not even open. Subway sandwich used to be open till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at least, 8 o'clock, closed. And I already know the answer because they can't get the workers. There's so many businesses now. How many people listening right now on this Tuesday, they plan to go to lunch somewhere, and then you get there and they don't serve lunch on Tuesdays. I mean, it's just endless. But anyway, you get to deal directly with the owners. It's Jay's Broadway Appliance, and they'll match or beat any package deal. But especially, I'd like you to stop in and give them some business, serve them, especially for air conditioners and grills. All right, folks, again, check out the website, depetro.com. We have a lot on it. We have some updates coming on the website, and it's brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. So I want to zero in on this situation in Warwick because it's not every day. Right now, it's a mystery, and it's unfortunate, but this woman, Charlotte Lester, was last seen. I also want to credit the Warwick police. They've just gone to another level with their communication. And as a member of the media that, depends on that type of thing, I just really, I really appreciate that because, sometimes people will ask me as far as getting communication, the best really is in fact the Providence police. Cranston police are good, but Warwick police is right now like a close second, if not even closing in on. Providence would be tough to beat, but like Pawtucket's a joke. But just getting back to this missing woman, and I did some stories on it over the weekend, and then we were there at the scene. What I have learned, and it seems to narrow down. Now, also yesterday, we were the first. I posted it on the Facebook page, which was yesterday afternoon. Police were at Kent Hospital, and they removed her red truck. So she had that red truck, and she was last seen at that home on Staples Avenue that we did one after dark there. Actually, I was there yesterday morning. We were there yesterday afternoon after we got the footage of the truck, and the house is surrounded by Warwick police, and the house is a crime scene. So now listen, I want to be sensitive here, but from what we know, and obviously, you want to remain until something is official. Right now, Charlotte Lester is missing, but there are people that saw her near the Crow's Nest Monday night, 10 o'clock, and she was headed to that house on Staples Avenue, which is right up the road from there. So that was Monday night around 10 o'clock. Tuesday morning, people that normally touch base with her in the morning didn't hear anything from her. So Tuesday, people are thinking, boy, that's odd. We haven't heard from her. Now, I have learned there is a woman. No, I won't say her name. I'll just use an initial right now. Her name begins with an M that is a person of interest here. So the people on the street told me they were familiar seeing her. People that were talking to her knew she was headed at this home on Staples Avenue. So Tuesday, people don't hear from this woman, Charlotte Lester, who I believe lived in East Greenwich, but I think was somewhat transient, moving around, so to speak. So Wednesday, they find her dog is recovered on Elmwood Avenue, Cranston Warwick line. So someone dropped, somehow her dog got over there. And then yesterday, her vehicle, that red truck, if you want to see a picture, I have it on both the Facebook page and the website, depetro.com, for those not on social media. It was towed away at from Kent Hospital. Now, I also want to point out, I know the person that was filming thought that there was possibly a body in the back of the truck, but normally that if they had in fact recovered a vehicle and there was a body there, most of the time the normal course of action is the medical examiner comes out to the scene, because the person, again, I'm not knocking the person that filmed it, but they were saying, I think there's something back there. There definitely could have been some evidence back there without question, and therefore there was a tarp put over. But one of the things that would be important in a case like this, and I'm not trying to sound like Columbo here, but I just know from covering trials and my dealings with law enforcement, would be, a big part of this is cause of death. And if in fact they were towing a vehicle that had someone who was non-responsive in the back of it, when it comes to someone maybe being held accountable, the person could argue that, the person was then being moved around. I don't know. I have been at a crime scene where there is someone who is, just as an example now, but like in Providence, shot and killed in the car. And I've been there. It was in Oneyville last May when the medical examiner had a busy night. It was very slow to get over there. And while I was there, and it was becoming a very volatile scene because the family members were showing up and the deceased was still just sitting behind the wheel of the vehicle. And they had to wait for the medical examiner to come and then remove the individual, and then they towed the car out of there. So my point is, the police also didn't announce that they found anything other than her vehicle, and it would certainly seem there could be some evidence there. So, but from what I understand, this is not, several things. I'm going to tell you some things that have not been reported as of yet. One is, it's my understanding that the owner of the home was released by police. So that's number one. Number two, what could make this difficult is it's my understanding that this is not what you would think is a traditional household, meaning it's my understanding this home in Warwick has various people in and out of it that are rather transient in nature. So therefore, the question becomes, you don't know who was in the home, but it certainly seems to stem from, and again, I have communicated with people that are connected with Charlotte Lester, and I know her brother has been posting some. Right. Okay. He just posted just a short time ago. The vehicle's been located at Kent Hospital in Warwick, less than 3 miles from the house, which they're conducting a search warrant at. The search for Charlotte continues. Asking for prayers. Keep a lookout for Charlotte. Any leads, please contact the Warwick Police Department. Well, they also have a private investigator, by the way. So that is, I feel for Mark that who we know some mutual people, and I did show. Well, we have this posted on the website. She had a beautiful red Tacoma truck, and it was very distinct. And that is suddenly, then I'll hold it up, but that was missing. Again, I have these pictures up on the website. So the timeline we're talking about it was over the weekend when we first heard, and they released the photo of her, and then and I've also learned there's a reward for her. So a missing person. Warwick Police Department, missing female, Charlotte Lester. So may have been seen in the area. Well, now we've learned a little bit more. It really centers around that house. Now, again, that's all I can tell you. But I have learned independently of that. And if you have information that some people are in fact reaching out to me, people I know that have given me information are listening, and I keep it all confidential, and I'm not saying a word. I'm getting a lot of information. There's several ways to reach me. A very easy way is through Facebook Messenger, or on the Facebook page right now. You just can type in message. No one sees those messages except for Juan. So we will keep that. But this right now, this is a missing persons case, and that's the way we're going to treat it that way. But there's something now. I also want to point out, there's just unknowns with this this particular situation. There's just unknowns. Something at this point. It certainly sounds. You want to keep a positive attitude, but it certainly sounds as though when someone's been last seen last Monday night, not last night, last Monday night, it's definitely something to be concerned about, without question. And so, but I also want to be very clear that we're going to wait until this official word from the Warwick Police. But I will tell you, it sure sounds that this is not the easiest situation. At least it seems right now. And we're going to withhold judgment. Again, I've heard that there is a female of interest, and the police may have already spoken to this individual. They may not have spoken to the individual. I am going to be working it later. We have this, and now we have the Allie story. But this remains a missing persons case. That's what it is right now. So her photo is up that we posted. And folks, it's also so important now, I believe. And again, good afternoon, everybody. Everyone at 12:36. You're listening to the John DePietro Show, because it's remarkable to me, not surprising, but the amount of people that are just not watching television anymore. And so therefore, more and more of you, and I appreciate that, go to social media, know when there's breaking news, we're going to be there. And that's why we continue to do it. And we are, yesterday, just to toot our horn, we were the first ones with the truck at Kent Hospital. Then Channel 10 saw our post and they took it. And then Channel 12 saw our post and they took it. And I've learned that the reason that someone spotted the truck was that they saw our Facebook Live. And I was holding up the pictures of the truck. So, it is what it is. I don't mind that. If that's the way it's going to go, if that's the role that we have been assigned, then so be it, folks. And we certainly appreciate all the support on Facebook. You can send stars. It's also, I'm very happy. We need one more monthly subscriber on the Facebook page, and then we hit our monthly. Facebook gives you different dynamics and metrics you have to hit each month. So it's just the nature of it. But this portion of the program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving, free estimate. Now listen, right now on this Tuesday, it's a good investment in your home? A new beautifully paved driveway. Call J. Perry Paving today, 401-732-1730. Free quote, 401-732-1730, J. Perry Paving. Residential asphalt driveway, licensed and insured contracting company. No matter how big a house, small, whether it's a brand new paving project or just a cracked driveway, J. Perry Paving can do it all. Affordable, smooth, safe to drive on. Call them for a free quote, 732-1730 for J. Perry, and it's paving. Folks, this portion of the John DePietro Show is brought to you by the Centerdale Revival. Shane, they're going to be ringing in Memorial Day all weekend long. Centerdale Revival, comfort food cocktails. I was there just the other night on a Friday night. 2025 Smith Street in North Providence. It's the Centerdale Revival, winner of several Rhode Island Monthly Awards. So on this Tuesday, now, by the way, this is a big primary day in Georgia. In just a moment, I'm going to play this is a big primary day in Georgia. When you have Mike Pence, former Vice President Mike Pence, who I just don't think I could support him for president. I thought he was okay in the role as Vice President for President Trump, but he had a rally for one candidate for governor of Georgia, and President Trump had a rally for another one. So I don't know how that is going to turn out. But I don't know. There's nothing against the vice president, but and I've communicated with some of his people. I just don't think he's I don't just get the vibe. I don't think he's my type of individual. It doesn't mean, it's so early, folks, and we have to wait and see how everything pans out. But you just, this could come down to a pretty bruising primary, possibly in 2024 between President Trump, I'm still going to call, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And it's my understanding they have no intention of running together, that there's bad blood between the two camps. That's what I've heard. So it would be nice if they ran together. But and I know people have suggested they should run together, but that's impossible if, in fact, and that's what I've heard. There's bad blood between the camps. So, but again, you know what the good news is? We don't have to decide right now. This is May of 2022. Last time I checked, we have all of this year, the midterms, and then. But you know what? Next year at this time, you're going to start. Next spring, you're going to start to see Republicans up on stage for the nomination, because next August is the Iowa straw poll. They said, now I don't know, the Iowa being stripped of that, but they start doing things in the summertime. Obviously, no voting now until later on. The Democrats are pulling out of Iowa. I'm not convinced the Republicans are. I don't like the idea of the caucus thing anyway. I've never liked that. Iowa does a caucus, Nevada does a caucus. And I don't know what's going to happen with the New Hampshire primary either. But I've never liked the idea of the caucus. You have to go meet with the groups of people, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's just something about that. Privacy of the used to be the privacy of the ballot box. Now, folks, in Rhode Island, obviously, we don't have that situation. And I played this, and I want to play it again. And I want to repeat for people what happened with the Rhode Island census. It's disgraceful. There's a lot of different layers to it. And I thought John Lugo, if you missed it yesterday, he's running for lieutenant governor. He's speaking out. I'm disappointed different things weren't pointed out. And this is not, by the way, this is not a criticism of Brian Crandall of NBC 10 and the I-Team. I like Brian Crandall, and I certainly have some friends at NBC 10. But I just think there's some things left out. There are some things left out. Now, I can, someone could say, well, that's your opinion, and then it is. But I just think there are some things that they could hit on more, such as, I think they should have highlighted more that the Wall Street Journal called our census very plainly, who rigged the census. That John Marion, that guy, it is unimaginable to me that people are still interviewing him and calling him the Common Cause or a government watchdog. He's in with them. And in his excuse for what he thinks happened, there were several things to this. Number one, James Diosa, the former mayor of Central Falls, his statement was basically saying, hey, listen, I did it and I do it again, and I don't care because we needed to save that congressional seat. And I also want to be very clear with you. I'm not going to allow people to try to make this a debate on whether or not we should have 2 congressional seats. It's not about that. Because someone said to me, I can't believe you're making a big deal about this because I thought you wanted Fungal Lansing for Congress. That's not the point. Number one, obviously I do. Langevin is, the L stands for, well, actually, Langevin is useless. But you're missing the larger point. If they can commit fraud with the census numbers, 55,000 is not a small number. If they can commit fraud with that under the guise of, we had to do what we had to do, right, in order to save the seat, in order to, quote, preserve democracy. If that's the attitude and that's the mindset, there's nothing to stop them from rigging an election. And no one will hit on that. That's number one. Number two, the co-chair of, do you understand the high-level nature of this? They were appointed by Governor Raimondo. They were, Diosa, who's like a lightweight yes man, he was put on it. Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott was co-chair. Here's a fair question that was not mentioned in this Channel 10 report. If she was that wrong on the census numbers, her body of work, she's a co-chair. If she was that wrong, why should we think her COVID numbers were accurate? No one is mentioning that, which I don't understand why. That should be, she's getting a free pass from the media. I already know the answer. I know that she's a media darling. Ridiculous. Totally overrated. That she's a creation of Raimondo. Notice she's still unemployed. She never got better in those COVID briefings. Everything was about equity, her policies. Because of her stewardship, Rhode Island was always in trouble. But what's also, it's so telling, there's no one saying we need to get to the bottom of this. There's no one saying this is unacceptable. We need to get this stuff right. It's like, oh, well, someone's in the parking lot. They just stole from the store and they're driving away. That's what's going on. And that John Marion, I think he coached them through it. He was so quick to be like, oh, can't do anything till 2030. Good luck. See ya. Like Andy Cohen. See ya. Sayonara, sucker. I mean, that's the attitude. But it's my contention, you don't turn that off. If they're willing to do that kind of conspiracy on a large scale, they committed large scale fraud. If they're willing to do that under the guise of we had to do it, and this is about Trump, and this is about preserving democracy, and blah, 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 therefore, thereby, yeah, but that's why we had, the next thing is that's why we had to make sure Nellie won the election for governor. That's why, we couldn't afford to send a Republican down for Congress. So that's why we had to rig the congressional election for Seth Magaziner, and we do it again. I mean, that's the mindset, right? Like I told you, the man arrested, he's got a loaf of bread. He's like, my family is starving and I have to feed my family. And did I steal a loaf of bread? I did, and I do it again. Right? Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red? You're damn right I did. It's a valuable tool. And if I had to do it all over again, I mean, that's their attitude. That's not what's coming across to the media. I can't, John Marion is blaming URI students and children of divorced parents. Boy, there's a nice target for you. So I want to give credit. The one thing I wish with our friend Susie Yankee, who's the chairwoman of the Rhode Island Republican Party, not that she's ever asked, but if I were ever going to give her an advice, she's very reactionary, right? You ask the question and then I'll answer the question. Why didn't you say this? Well, they didn't ask me that. Why didn't you say that? Well, they didn't ask me that. Very reactionary. I believe it should be, all right, before you ask me anything, is that thing rolling? Here's what I have to say about it. Boom, boom, boom. Now, what do you want to ask me? And many times, if it's a good quote, they'll go with that. But you can't be in the situation of, why didn't you mention Dr. Scott? Well, they didn't ask me that. Why didn't you mention no one will have confidence in the election? Well, they didn't ask me that. Why didn't you mention that ultimately this falls on Nellie Gorbea, who's running the blanking election? Well, they didn't ask me that. Why didn't you mention that Diosa, who's the co-chair, wants to be general treasurer And he was off by 55,000 votes. I think I know what you're going to say. They didn't ask me that. Don't be so reactionary. This is a perfect example. They want to say if you mention election fraud, you're touting the big lie. If you mention things aren't on up and up with the elections, oh, you're how dare you? It's an attack on voting rights. The highest levels of Rhode Island government, to quote the Wall Street Journal, rigged the census. Period. End of story. And what's also remarkable, and we talked about this yesterday, this has Raimondo's fingerprints all over it, because it was right at the threshold. If it was a little bit higher, it could trigger an investigation. They were right there. So I have heard that Raimondo kicked it down. That I heard it was way over, like 55,000 over. No, it was like way over. And then because Raimondo, Commerce Secretary, who's in charge of the U.S. Census, kicked it down, so it was 55,000 over, but it was right below the threshold of where you had to be. Otherwise, boom, it sometimes, and I mentioned this in various things, there's something put into the system that triggers, like a warning sign, right? Like just like we talked about, if you go into a bank and withdraw 10,000, boom, that causes that raises a red flag. You go to a bank and withdraw 9,500, you're fine. So, all right, this is the Channel 10 report, and again, nothing against Brian Crandall. I could certainly do without that John Marion of Common Fraud. I think it's a joke. They were cheating. They meant to cheat. And I just can't. I don't think it's over yet, but I can't stand the thought of these people getting away with this.
That ranks third highest in the country.
Oh, hold on. My fault. Here we go.
Overcounts and leaving some critics to wonder what was going on. But those involved are defending their work.
Oh, yeah.
Accounting controversy 2 years after the fact, and now questions as to how Rhode Island was significantly overcounted, according to a new estimate from the Census Bureau itself.
Well, we would not have been doing anything that was above.
Oh, okay.
Henrietta Whiteholder heads
Henrietta
National in Providence, one of a bunch of community social service organizations.
What is she gonna say? Yeah, we were.
People in underserved areas to fill out their census forms. They had census takers at high-demand food distribution events during COVID.
So there was no way we could be double counting anybody. Right. We needed to get this line moving really fast.
I'm not celebrating the fact that we overcounted by 55,000 people, because I believe most Americans in the country want a system to be fair.
Rhode Island Republican Party head Susie Yankee supports census outreach efforts, but questions some tactic used by groups hoping to get more people counted. Like one organizer who told the Boston Globe last year he handed out some $20 bills.
Incentivizing people, and they come and they get $20 or a gift card.
Thousands.
They're not thinking, I already did this.
By all accounts, it's the Census Bureau that's supposed to check for duplicates.
So when you incentivize people to fill it out and you overwhelm census workers, they could not differentiate.
What would you say to people who think there was something suspicious
Yes,
happening on the
John Marion,
outreach efforts?
the liar.
Most states did outreach efforts. Ours were pretty run-of-the-mill. John Marion,
paying people, paying illegals.
State committee tasked with getting people counted. He and other experts say reasons for overcounts can include children listed by more than one parent, college students counted at home and at school, and people with second homes filling out a form at each address.
I don't.
There's nothing nefarious about it.
Yes, there was.
And meanwhile, former Central Falls Mayor James Diosa, who is a co-chair of that Rhode Island Complete Count group, defends their work, telling me they just tried to be innovative in getting people to trust the census process. Secretary of State Nellie Gourvet's gubernatorial campaign replied to our request for comment from her, blaming then President Donald Trump for any issues. Meanwhile, Massachusetts was also estimated to have been overcounted by 2%.
Yeah, they have a lot more people in Mass, okay? They have a lot more people in Mass. So the fact of the matter is, and Diosa taking the victory lap, even though they were over on the count, that speaks volumes. Instead of, how come, and folks, at 12:53, it's very simple. How come they're not saying, we need to get to the bottom of this? How come they're not saying, we need to check our work? Why aren't they saying, oh, no, we went through that. No, it's not off 55,000, right? No way. I'm going to come back to, let's just say, the grocery store. It's not the best analogy, but it's an analogy. When I worked at IGA, Governor Francis, at the end of your shift, you'd have to count out your draw. And you'd have, here's how much you rang into your register. And then the money would all match up. And again, sometimes people would be, generally like under $1 giving change. Sometimes maybe give a quarter and it should have been a nickel or whatever it may be. And you'd be short a little bit, sometimes over, but, normally, and then you'd have to log that you were whatever the hell it was, $1 off, 50 cents off. You're working a register for 6 hours. And then when you do it at the end and you're just like a little bit off, $1.75 something. I mean, that's within the bounds of reason acceptable. But they're not even saying we need to redo things, right? I want to stay with that analogy. If someone said, hey, your register's off $55, that's a big mistake that was made. Then you start to go through it. How about you were off 55,000? Their lack of curiosity is what I find very telling. No interest to try to find out where this thing went sideways. Also, Alorza said, well, we heard it's on the census end. Well, they didn't say that publicly, so I don't know where he's getting that information. The fact of the matter is, and we're John Marion of Common Cause, I find to be, I don't even say I don't know him that well. I don't know him. I knew the person that was in that job, Phil West. I don't know John Marion. I don't even remember. I think in the past, maybe I've reached out to him and he wasn't responsive, what have you. But the fact to me at this point, he's just like running cover. And for him to be even out there as government watchdog, but for them to deny the obvious, right, which is they had motivation to rig the census. And their motivation was the state was in danger of losing a congressional seat. That's just the way it goes. There are people that are moving to other parts of the country. So I want to be very clear. I mean, I don't want to see the state lose any money, but why, I repeat, why should we be so confident? Why should we be confident at all that the same people, then I believe it was rigged. Absolutely it was. They had their motivation. If we don't do this, we're going to lose the seat. And then it's going to go to a place like Florida or Texas or South Carolina. Therefore, it'll probably be a Republican seat. Democrat Party has a better chance holding on to it. So therefore, ends justify the means. As I've told you, you always have to be careful when you're dealing with people in that position of authority. Ends justify the means. Very, very dangerous. And that's their mentality, right? There's a bunch of examples of it. We need to burn the village to save the village. Listen, if we have to cut some corners, Diosa had it best. Hey, I make no apologies. I was giving my marching orders by Dr. Scott Governor Raimondo. I did what I had to do to make sure there was nothing more important than us retaining that seat. If we had to fudge the numbers, then we fudge the numbers. I just say, once you let the toothpaste out of the tube, good luck trying to get the trust of the public back. And there should be an investigation on this. The silence of Governor McKee, I also find very interesting. So do I think it went high level? I think it was a local operation. And with John Marion holding the hand through it. And then I wonder what type of communication Raimondo knew about this. So, and for instance, she's very tight with Seth Magaziner. So can you imagine if he had announced he's running for Congress and then the whole thing was flipped and suddenly we don't have 2 seats? The fact that he felt comfortable enough that the state would hold on to 2 seats, I find that pretty interesting. Folks, this portion of the John DePietro Show is brought to you by R.E. Coogan Heating. It's Coogie. Folks, call them today, 401-732-6562. Helpful, trustworthy, reliable. It's Cougs. Remember what Coog says. Let us into your home. Don't fix it alone. R.E. Coogan Heating. Plumbing, this time of year, cooling, not heating, and also hot water tanks. Call them right now. If you're having a problem with your cooling system, call Coogan Heating, Cooling and Heating, 401-732-6562. And or if you're having a plumbing problem, or perhaps your also your hot water tank gave out, call Coogan Heating today, 401-732-6562. It's Coogie. It's R.E. Coogan Heating. So, folks, that is the latest. So right now it's 12:59. We are going to get a news update in the 1 o'clock news. It's the Power Hours next hour. I still have a lot more to go through. More on, I think it's interesting with Bishop Tobin throwing down the gauntlet against Matt at Allie's. More on this Warwick mystery. The woman is still missing, Charlotte Lester. That was a bad hotel fire last night in Newport. And then now the latest, though, I'll tell you, the Biden presidency just continues to crumble. And then I also want to tell you about something that's coming up at the end of the week. So those that are watching on Facebook or YouTube or what have you, next hour is radio only, AM 1380, 99.9 FM, or you can listen online at the website, depetro.com. We're back on the other side after the 1 o'clock news on the John DePetro Show.